God is my witness, this PC is going to freaking boot today.
Get amazing prices on the brands you love at Microcenter. Microcenter has over 30,000 items in stock, including desktops, laptops, computer components, monitors, TVs, and more. Not sure which parts to choose for your next build? Then use Microcenter's custom PC builder to find compatible parts, create your parts list, add them to your cart, and use same-day pickup at one of Microcenter's 25 locations nationwide. And if you're not comfortable building it, one of Microcenter's professional builders can build it for you as fast as same day for a fee. And if you need ideas for a build, then head to Microcenter's Build Showcase for great build inspiration, or submit your build for others to see. To see everything that Microcenter has to offer, click the link in the description below.
This is my buddy's build, actually my best friend's build. I've been working on for a while. The most recent thing I was waiting on was for the cables to come and then the holiday to pass. And I've done some work on it off camera, by the way. If you guys haven't seen any of the previous videos, I did do some other videos talking about modifying the acrylic piece here, learning how to drill and tap acrylics so that I could add ports where I wanted them to, so I wasn't stuck with EK's terrible placement on ports. Added a drain port, which you can kind of see through the acrylic right there. So if you want to see me learning and failing and then eventually getting it right, there's a video on that. I also took you guys along for a ride on bending all the tubing for down here and getting everything sort of figured out. I also showed you guys how I added a rear reservoir on the rear 120 instead of putting a fan there, because I wanted something different and unique to connect to the CPU block, and I like the way that turned out. As long as everything, actually I think this is gonna make filling a heck of a lot easier. So I've got videos on all that stuff, and you guys said you wanted to see more of that type of content. But basically where I'm at now is I just need to finish wiring it up, but I've never boot tested this motherboard. That's scary because although MSI is a lot better than it used to be, the highest quote unquote failure rate I've ever had of boards that were bad out of the box for me personally in the last 10 years have been MSI, and followed by Gigabyte. So I think what I'm gonna do today, typically I would not have a problem with just booting on a system without any coolant or anything in there, because the block has enough thermal mass to at least keep the CPU from just ramping to thermal shutdown. I don't want to do that with this because with DDR5 and how long it takes for CPUs to train and actually boot these days, it could definitely get into the hot territory, and I don't want to deal with that. I also do not want to put fluid in here and then hook a power supply up to the pump and start putting fluid through it and then turn it on and find out something's wrong and have to take it apart, then have to drain the loop, and then stuff will inevitably drip and it gets into being messy. So what I'm debating on doing right now is actually taking off the tubes to the CPU block, taking the CPU block off, and then hooking like an AIO up to it, just to boot. Because the GPU, I have no problems with letting it turn on with just a block touching it and no flow, because with the GPU at idle and down like 300 megahertz, 400 megahertz, and the voltage super low, I could let it idle all day long with the water block on there and not having any passive or any active cooling. It's no different than how you have 0 dB mode now on fans and stuff. Yes, the heat sinks do create some radiation. They do radiate some heat away without any active airflow, but the amount of thermal mass that's on these blocks is insane, and I've shown this a million times, how you can absolutely, without fluid, turn on a water block or a GPU and test it. Also too, I want to talk about some of the other components that are in here that I didn't show you guys before. So for RAM, I kind of banged my head a little bit on this one. I'm using the Kingston Fury Beast DDR5. It's a 32 gig kit, so that's two 16 gigabyte sticks. It's the exact same RAM that I am running on my rig at home. There's multiple reasons why I'm using this RAM. One, I like the way it looks. I think it goes well with this build. Remember, this is intended to be like a Mega Man themed build. That's why there's the blue and the white. I still have to figure out the figurine that's gonna go in here, like how I wanna mount it. You guys have seen that. The other thing is, we've got a very agnostic set of RGB going on in this system. So we've got LianLi Unifans in here, which use the LianLi control software or the pass-through to the motherboard. Now remember, LianLi has a mode where you end an RGB header that you can plug into your motherboard, and if you toggle that switch in the LianLi L-Connect settings, and this uses L-Connect 3 by the way, the newest one, then the controller will just mimic whatever the motherboard's doing. And the cool thing is the Fury X RAM will work with Mystic Light, which is built into MSI. Mystic Light is not my favorite RGB software, but it's not my least favorite either. I didn't want to use something like Corsair, which would have required me to then also have IQ installed on here for nothing more than the RAM. If I had other Corsair components, or this was a Corsair Link system, and yes, and don't think I didn't consider taking all this out and switching it out for Link. I didn't, for actually two reasons. One, I don't have white fans, I only have black fans, and two, This isn't my build, and the owner likes the LianLi. He likes the way they look. He likes the edge lighting. He likes the fact that it's, he really likes the LianLi fans, and he's talked about them, and that's what he wants. So it's his build, that's what we're going with. So what I need to do right now is I need to go ahead and get this thing turned on, test booted, and I need to see an image. The other thing too I'm thinking about doing is if I have to take the block off anyway, then I'm gonna go ahead and probably mount down one of Der Bauer's 12th and 13th gen mounting frames that's designed to keep the CPU from ever having the bowing issue that they've been known to have. So, I don't know why I'm dreading taking the block off. It's not like it's hard. It's just these 2 tubes and 4 screws and an RGB header that I did a very good job at routing very tightly up in there. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and while I have this off, do the Thermal Grizzly bracket. So this was actually developed by DeBauer and his company Thermal Grizzly. This is designed to give even contact force with the CPU down onto the socket. Because the problem was with 12th gen, with the longer, more rectangle shaped substrate, they found that under extreme heat and such, which these CPUs create, it can bow and start lifting contact pins off of the pads. So this is what he came up with to do that. And basically it replaces these 4 screws in the socket. You have to be super careful because of the fact that we are dealing with the pins and such. So basically I'm gonna go ahead and close the latch here. You have to have access to both the front and the back. Obviously, as you can see, I took the block and stuff off to do this. I should have done this first. I was a little torn on whether or not I wanted to. And if I, oh, that's the back. I was like, what just fell off? It's the back retention plate. Because this still has to screw into something, right? So it's still gonna screw into that. And then you have to use the screws that are provided because the screws that come with it don't fit down in here like properly. I just remember he had this whole discussion about like, don't reuse the screws, use the ones that he provides. So that's what I'm gonna be doing. If you over tighten it, you can also make it crooked. And then you would have, the number one thing you'd notice is missing RAM channels. Okay, so the bracket's on. I now need to install my AIO. Just throwing a regular old, it's just a EKAIO on there. That way I can at least verify that everything boots up. And now because I've done the bracket, I have to verify that all of our RAM channels and everything are showing up. Which means I probably should throw an SSD in here because I haven't done that yet. Because that would also suck to find out that the SSD isn't showing up because for whatever reason, the pins aren't touching. You'd be surprised how much of a CPU will work without all the pins touching. So one of the things I need to do to make sure is all working too is that the drives are working, the speeds are expected to be, well, not necessarily the speeds, but the storage shows up. I'm running 2 different drives in here, P5 Plus 2 GB main drive, and then I'm running a P3 Plus 4 terabyte games drive for him. He plays a lot of games. He has a big library of games. I don't want there to be any concerns about whether or not he has enough storage. 4 terabytes and it's single-sided. That's so cool. Things have come a long way. Anyway, I know it sounds very shilly, but we use Crucial in just about every one of our builds. They've just been really good to us and they're very solid drives. I have 0 complaints. Well, my only complaint is about the fact I didn't put these in when the damn thing was out on the table. I was just so caught up in doing my loop that I didn't even think about the fact that I have to. We have drives, we have let's just leave it like that and tell them custom. Nobody else has a system like this hanging out the front. Actually, I'm sure someone does. Someone somewhere has one. Okay, so the fans are not gonna turn on this. It doesn't matter, the loop isn't going. The pump isn't gonna turn, it's not plugged in. All I'm looking for right now is that I get video. That's all I care about. Okay. Instant shut off is good for Intel. Or not. Okay, that's not a good sign. I think I might have found the problem. When I took off the water block, I forgot to take the metal backplate out from behind the motherboard, which is now stuck. I think that shorted something and killed the board. I'm overdue for killing a part for something stupid. Usually I kill a part out of intentionality. for entertainment purposes. I was not trying to entertain you today. I was trying to get my friend's build done. I'm pretty sure the board is dead at this point. Hopefully it didn't take the CPU or anything with it. I have another 13900K, although this is a KF. I just need to get, you know what? Here's what we're gonna do. I am going to now set this aside for a moment. I'm going to grab the other board because I have the CPU out. It's right here on the paper towel. I might as well at least check to make sure that the CPU and the RAM and all that work, because who knows what shorted. All right, just like that, I have taken out the additional board that we have that's identical. Got the cooler just resting on the CPU, that's plenty. 1650 in there. That's powered on. I have to short the power because of the fact that there is no power button on the surface of this one. It's on. Way to go, Jay. There's 300 bucks down the drain. Please give me an image. There we go, there's our blue light. Son of a biscuit, because here's the thing. If I hadn't fricked up and put the bracket left it in the back, I wouldn't be dealing with this frickin' problem right now. We're in the BIOS, it sees our CPU correctly, 13900KF, there's our 32 gigs of RAM. I don't have the storage in here because it's still in the other one. I have no reason to believe the storage won't work. You know, the motherboard did a good job at taking one for the team, honestly. It just kind of like, bleh. I'm much rather it go bleh than the CPU because that's way more expensive than the board. But check it out, I have the Be Quiet Dark Rock Pro just sitting on top of it, not even mounted down, just sitting with thermal paste, and it's idling at 32.
Don't even have a fan on it, huh?
No, no fans, and it's just resting on it. Look, I can even be like, wee. Now what I have to do, and I don't even have to deal with this AIO anymore, is I can now take that out. Do you think I should do the bracket? Do you think I should try the bracket now that it's out? It'd be a lot easier than when it's in. We thought initially the bracket might have not been tight enough or too tight or something, but now that it's out like this, I feel like I should at least try it. Hey.
So my phone isn't ringing. I just got lucky to see you just called.
Oh. Well, you always get lucky when it comes to me, buddy.
Ooh, you know what? Are we? Oh man, we're gonna bring the beds together tonight, bud.
Double king size loving.
You know what? You know what? The forest is gonna hear the sounds of the bears. The sounds of the night.
Okay. Well, speaking of sounds, I killed your computer.
Yay! Yay! Wait, what? Why? Oh.
The good news is I had another identical board, so we're back up and running.
Hey, look at that.
It's not MSI's fault, it's mine. The thickest piece of aluminum that has ever existed as a backplate made its way into traces it doesn't belong.
I should say the thickest decision.
Anyway.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna say that, you know what? That computer beforehand got really drunk the night before, did some bad things. It kind of deserves its outcome.
Well, let's just see if I can make it through this time and swapping everything out without doing it again.
All right, let's have God steer the wheel.
God steer the wheel. I don't think that's how the song goes, but it's close enough. What did I tell you? I told you he was like, oh, that's okay.
Frick.
Get mad every now and then.
Stuff.
Well, probably one of the fastest motherboard swaps I've ever done, and then I went ahead and finished some other things off camera. So I got the bracket on, the retention bracket for the CPU, tested it, it works, everything booted up. I got my all 32 gig showing. So I put the CPU block on it, put it back in here. This time made sure that the backplate did not fall off and short anything. Second of all, I wired everything up. And then I've got it holding air right now, just testing, because I had to take those tubes off. I had to re-pressure test everything. So it's been sitting here for a while now holding air. So this is one of the neatest sounds in a computer that just don't sound right. It's like I just took a freaking Schrader valve out of a tire. But anyway, so that's holding air, and I now feel confident that I will be able to fill this loop and not have any leaks. So there's that. Here's the wiring. I could have definitely gone with a nice short 24 pin right into the power supply, but I didn't have time to measure, and I needed to get these cables ordered that way they'd be here in time. So that's why they're just ugly like that, but we just do that. But anyway, you can see I used one of Singularity Computer's distribution block here for RGB. These are a godsend. I need more of these. This is actually the one that we played around with and we're testing like how to solder on. So the top one's all messed up because we took the pins off, but the input is nothing more than just wired in with everything else. So I could just use something else as an input, which is what I've done. So this is going in off the motherboard, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 RGB devices, and then one pass-through plugged in for the LianLi control box so that it can do the matching RGB with everything else. And then I just have cables actually strapped down here. Not the neatest wiring job, but you know what? It's such a hollow area. It's hard to get this all wired nice, but everything's traceable and easy to follow if I need to. So it's not terrible. Now, if we take a look at the business side, I don't have any of the panels put back in yet because this is going to be much easier for Phil to get some awesome footage to be able to take the lens and like get it up in here and stuff. It is going to be time to fill this up now. So yes, I am running a CableMod adapter on there. This is the 180 adapter. I've still been running it on mine. Haven't had any issues with it. I know that there's still so much discussion and debate about melting cables and melting adapters and what is causing it. The problem is the freaking up to 600 watts that can be carried through the 12 volt high power plug. That is it. Although I guess Igor's lab did leak a new plug, something that I have now gotten third-party confirmation does exist and is real. They have redesigned the plug, the 12 volt high power plug, but they still have those tiny little wires, those little pins carrying all of the 150 watts per EPS, which is up to 4 of them. What they've done is they've shortened the sideband pins so that if it's not plugged in all the way, the sideband pins won't make connection, which means that the card won't even power on. But the latest debate is whether or not that is even going to solve the problem because of the fact that there's still an unknown factor of how many amps and watts the pins can carry through there safely with how tiny they are. I'm not an electrical engineer. I don't know. All I know is the problem is not the adapter. The problem is freaking NVIDIA and PCI SIG and this stupid cable that never should have existed. Anyway, let's talk about filling. I'm gonna fill live. Normally you would get some nice B-roll of the filling, but this is the first time I've ever had a double reservoir. So I've got one in the back and I've got one in the front. And I have a feeling this is gonna allow me to be able to get so much more fluid in the loop than I normally would be able to, because the problem with distribution blocks or anything flat like I'm using here, which is a pump res combo, versus like a cylinder reservoir, like 150 mil to 250 mil reservoir, these hold a lot less fluid. So the question is gonna be, how much can I actually get in here now? I think I should start filling from here, honestly, and then what I need to do is just uncap this because I think that will allow air to come out. That's my guess anyway. Now, well, you can see that. It's backfilling down the GPU. And I am using the EK Mystic Fog. I've been using it in my system. It is still as foggy as ever. Like, it's not causing any issues with gunking up. It's still pretty thin. I have a feeling I'm gonna be able to get a lot of fluid in this before I turn it on, which is gonna be awesome. Especially when you have a lower rad. You gotta get that radiator filled up before you're gonna get any sort of fluid flowing. Look at this. The air is starting to push it out right there. It's sciencing so hard right now. I love it. I'm gonna start doing this in all my builds. This might be the most boring fill montage Phil's ever done because it will just be flow with a little bit of air bubbles going on. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna plug in another 24 pin back here, jumper it. We'll fill it up. I'm so beyond happy that this one's done. Not just because it takes a while to do these builds sometimes, but just because it's for my friend. I'm really bummed still that I'm pretty sure I killed a motherboard. In fact, let me grab it. I was looking at the back of it to see if I could find any visible like arcing or anything, but no, there's no marks anywhere on this. I went over it pretty fine tooth, but look at this. The backside, you know, has so many exposed prongs and whatnot, like from the soldering points, that we were joking around about this. Like, well, if we had ASUS with their armor on the back, it wouldn't have mattered because it wouldn't have touched anything, but whatever, that is what it is. It may not be dead. I don't know if it's dead. We've had boards before that have like died, and then we just put them on the shelf, and then a couple months later we screw around with it and it's alive. So I'm hoping that's the case with that one. I don't even have my fingers crossed on that. Anyway, here's the Mega Man build. The lights right now are just set to white with some blue lights kind of going around back and forth. I've got Mega Man there sort of. Let's make him holding up the graphics card. There we go. He's not actually holding the graphics card. This card is not sagging because I've used pretty much all of my methods of anti-sag that I've done videos about, so it's not sagging at all. I like the way it turned out. I don't know what he wants to do with lighting, so right now I just kind of left it at that. But there's two pieces of lighting software that we're using here, L-Connect 3, as well as Mystic Light. And if we go ahead and open up Mystic Light here, wait for MSI center loading. Wait for UI elements initialization. No, I do not want to install Norton. This is the problem. Look at this. So Mystic Light here is controlling the RAM and all of the RGBs that are not the L-Connect. And by the way, that CPU block is freaking bright. I don't know how well it's coming on camera, but it is bright. However, I can select the RAM independently. And the reason why I chose it didn't link them, is if you link them, then the motherboard lighting effects that you get on the ARGB headers are then limited to whatever the RAM can do. And the RAM is more limited than what like an LED strip could do. So, but check this out. If I go over here into the lighting effects for L-Connect and I just hit motherboard lighting sync, now they just go white because that's all the motherboard's telling it to do. And then remember the RAM still has this blue stuff. Ah! It's all like seizuring kind of.
Although knowing your best friend,
he might leave it in that mode. He loves art. His whole apartment looks like this computer. Yeah. Here's a really neat one, actually. I thought this would be cool because Fireman was one of like the bad guys that I think is kind of cool. I liked Fireman. There's Flame. Check out this Flame mode. So it could be like Fireman's mode. If I sync that, look at that. Now it's like a fire level, just raining fire. Just raining fire. I actually think he would like this mode. I really do. Now it looks like Mega Man is in a battle of some sort. But anyway, there you go. So just sort of some stuff I had in mind when it came to his build. I mean, I could have gone way more themed in this if I wanted to. We kind of wanted a battle scene where I was gonna have one of the bad guys fighting him like in here. But the problem was this particular company with this extremely detailed articulating model doesn't have any of the bad guys. They had Gundams and other stuff, but they didn't have that. Very specific collectible company. Anyway, there you go. I like the way it turned out. I'm just gonna go ahead and put this back to the way I had it, and I'll kind of go over all the RGB settings with him so he can determine what it is he wants to do. So there we go, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the build. I hope it's inspired you in some way. This was I had never done that before, and you can guarantee you will see this again from me at some point because this was this was the simplest filling I've ever had to do. By the time the reservoir was getting low, as you guys saw, it started water falling back into the reservoir. So I just had to fill it up, shake it around a little bit, some more air came out, tilt it so that I could get the fill reservoirs at or the reservoir ports at the very top corner of whatever I was filling, and then capped it off, and there we go. All right, guys, thanks for watching. All the parts and stuff in this build are down in the description below. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.